Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Evermore NUFC channel. Back for your reaction video to that breathless game with Bournemouth. It's one for the neutrals, I think, not one for the faint-hearted. A lot of things to look back on and sort of question. There were a lot of issues that I think are still really, really visible in that side, and at the moment where things are just not quite clicking. But is it a good result at the end of this? I'll let you put that in the comments to see if you think coming away with a point is a good result from that game. I've also got a poll in the community chat with regards to the man of the match for the game as well today. So if you want to just drop your votes in that too. As we always say at the beginning of the videos as well, if you are new to the channel, you do like what we do, please subscribe to the channel. Hit a like on the video as well. Really, really helps the channel grow. We'll get stuck into this game straight away. There's an awful lot to unpack, I think. I think the last time I've done this, the post-match, I've used the word disappointing an awful lot, and I think that's really true of this game as well. Newcastle dominated possession, dominated touches in the opposition half, in the opposition box, but really until later on really didn't create an awful lot of sort of chances. The sort of the early exchanges, it was very Newcastle sided. You've got the sort of the chances for Trippier really early on, where Anthony Gordon early on, where Trippier crosses and Gordon sort of off the bounce heads the ball just wide. You've got the Gordon chance again when Neto tries to clear the ball, takes an extra touch, just muddles that up a little bit, and Anthony Gordon charges that down and it goes wide. The luck we've seen was with Bournemouth for that one, because obviously the later on the issue with Dubravka, which we'll get to. But there were some really good early signs, some great passing from Miley, who I thought was excellent again today. There was some really good running from Anthony Gordon. I thought he ran intelligently today. He took up some good positions. You know, it's not his natural position to play through the middle, but I thought he did run well. He may not have had the final product, but you know, he's been asked to do a job that really isn't his. But I think that on the back of those intelligent runs, there was a lacking from others to move into those positions around him, or take up the positions that he was missing from. So when he pulled to the left for Barnes or for Miggy to get into that central position was vital, but they didn't do that. You found a lot that Barnes and Gordon would find themselves both on the left-hand side. Miggy was too far wide. And the other part of that first half, I think, just looking at the overall the positioning of the players as well. For the first 45 minutes, Anthony Gordon, his average position was alongside Bruno. Barnes was further back, and the furthest player forward was Miggy, who was really ineffective for much of that game. Once again, the odd moment, he couple of shots that he had, the early volley that he puts wide. The one where a couple of shots where he absolutely skies it or puts it miles wide. It's just his finishing at the moment is just absolutely awful. Thought Barnes struggled, I think, probably to get into the game a little bit. There were a number of chances in the first half for Bournemouth players to have picked up yellow cards. I counted 5 yellow card challenges in that first half, and only 1 yellow card was given. The referee was really, really poor in that first half, and there wasn't really an awful lot that went on other than, you know, those yellow cards. I thought that the Christie card was awful, with the foot on the back of Bruno's heel and calf. And the Senesi foul on Miggy as well, where he's breaking away. I mean, he gets his foot high across his leg, and then he scissors from behind, and he catches Miggy's leg between both of his. It's a yellow card all day long. And again, it's just absolutely not given. And then, so the first half, I think the first half stats, I think it's Newcastle 62% possession. They had 8 shots, 5 for Bournemouth. 2 of those were on target for Newcastle, 3 for Bournemouth. But I mean, it was a poor half. I didn't think there was an awful lot between them. I thought Newcastle dominated possession, like I say, but there wasn't an awful lot. Bournemouth had the better chances of those and probably should have been ahead. I thought Dubravka made a couple of really good saves. There was the one from Dubravka from Solanke when Kluivert gets in behind Botman and squares for him. And then there was another one from Solanke as well, where the ball gets hit across the 6-yard box, and Solanke just gets his foot as he's sort of stretching for it. And Dubravka, I thought, did really well to get his hand down it and clear that ball. Then the second half kicks in, and that's when all the action sort of takes place. And I was starting to sort of write some of my notes, but just before the first goal, just putting in a note that just said there was a great pass from Longstaff to release Almiron, and that was one of the shots he really messes up. He cuts inside it and blazes it over. It was really poor, and then that leads onto the goal. So 50th minute, the ball's being passed around at the back by Newcastle. It comes to Botman, who maybe he's a little bit over, hits his pass back to Dubravka in front of goal, and he takes a step back, slips on the floor, and Solanke's got the entire net to just tap into. Really, really unlucky for me for Dubravka. I've seen some question him at that point, but those slips can happen to anybody. You know, he's unlucky in that regard. I thought, we've seen it. We've seen Nick Pope make mistakes like that. Maybe he's not leading to a goal, but obviously his red card when you go back to Liverpool, those sort of problems do happen. So unlucky for him, but you're asking for trouble when you're passing around like that at the back, especially when that's not your game. Senesi then got booked eventually. Realistically, that should have been his second yellow card, because he then gets booked for a barge on Bruno, which was a definite yellow. So it should have been 2 yellow cards and off. And then that goes into a minute later. You've got the penalty. I've absolutely no idea what was going on in Stockley Park, because it took them 5.5 minutes, I think, to check for the offside and the penalty. It was a clear shirt pull. It started outside the box. It went into the box, a lot like the Dan Burn one on Ogbene the other week. It's a clear penalty. It doesn't need to take that long to decide it. This is the ultimate frustration of VAR, is that it just takes absolutely far too long. So it goes from being about the 51st minute to about the 57th before Anthony Gordon can take the penalty, and he takes it coolly and slots it into the corner, just out of the reach of Neto. And they thought, game on then. You know, Newcastle are back in this. They could go on to win this game. You've got I think Miggy then a couple of minutes later has another opportunity, but he blazes over when Trippier is screaming down the right-hand side, and he's furious at that point. And that really should have been the ball, but Miggy's awareness of what's around him is lacking at all times. And then the second goal comes for Bournemouth. The ball gets played to Semenyo, and Burn, I think, is in two minds at that point. He's been done for pace so many times that he allows Semenyo so much space, so much time to kind of settle himself and get into the edge of the box, and then he rockets it past Dubravka. And again, I've seen some question Dubravka for that one. Would anybody else have saved it? I'm not so sure. Semenyo hits that really, really well with great power and into the corner. I'm not sure many goalkeepers would do an awful lot with that. I'd have to see it from another angle to be perfectly sure. But it was a good finish. I think the defending again was lacking on that one. And then it's all about Newcastle trying to get back into the game. Burns pulled off for Tino on the 71st minute. and Tino immediately starts to look decent, especially in the opposition half. You've got the substitution. Bonds came off for Murphy just before that goal as well, so sorry for that. And it sort of went a little quiet. There wasn't an awful lot to go on until about the 90th minute, when Joe White comes on, and then mayhem ensues. Obviously Bruno's ball into the box is a brilliant little ball. And I thought Bruno had a good game today. He wasn't the most spectacular, but I thought he played really, really well. His little cross into the box at that point was really good. And that first header from Matt Ritchie, I thought he's absolutely messed that up. It hits the defender, hits the goalkeeper, and bounces back to Matt Ritchie from, a yard out. And he really can't miss at that point. And plays in, and that's his first goal in 4 years, which is just an awful stat for an attacking player. And then the last couple of minutes, you've got the Murphy header just over the bar from Kieran Trippier's cross, and then Bruno in about the 96th minute would shoot straight at Neto as well, and it ends 2-2. And I'll use that word disappointing again. I think on the back of it all, it is a disappointing result, because you've gone into that game wanting a little bit of revenge for what happened down at Bournemouth, and trying to iron out some of the mistakes that have gone on. And there's still the defensive frailty, and there's an awful lot of goals being conceded. I think that's 12 goals now in 6 games that have been conceded. It's really not good enough at the back. I don't think the midfield is helping out particularly well at the back either. And then the lack of a striker is an absolute killer. I know you obviously Newcastle scored twice again today, but the lack of a centre forward is really clear, because, like I say, those runs from Gordon early on would have been perfect for a centre forward, then getting into the middle and being able to make something of those chances. So I'm going to jump into the comments and just see what some of you guys are saying. George, best thing that Matt Ritchie has done in years, absolutely, in 4 years, pretty much. So yeah, it's really rescued things at that point, because it was looking bleak. So, and then George again, how fucking hard is it to get fucking rid of your owner? Yeah, there's an element of that. There's too many, and I think this is across the league, but particularly for Newcastle at times, is just get rid of it. I mean, it's the one thing, I guess you taught as a kid, when if in doubt, just regroup, get rid of the ball, and you can regroup. Don't piss around with it in front of your own goal. Don't bring on problems. Don't allow the opposition to get too high up the pitch and press you. That this is what Newcastle are good at, is getting into those areas, but they're allowing others to do it. Mark is in there. Yeah, for neutral, it was probably enjoyable. Absolutely. One of those highlights on Match of the Day where they cut the highlights into a decent viewing for the neutral as well. 2 lad Dan burnout. No, I think that's harsh to an extent. I thought he did okay today in the main. Like I say, I think he gets caught in between 2 options for the goal, whether to get tight and get done for pace, or whether it's allow Semenyo the time, and he allows him the time to take the shot. And look, it's a great finish. But if he goes a bit tighter, does he get done? It's not all about him at that point. Let's have a look. More comments from here. Yeah, 2 points dropped again. Look, I can't really disagree with that. I think that everything's really there to have won the game. I thought, like I say, Newcastle dominated possession. It dominated the ball in the opposition half, but it's being able to create those chances. At the end, it was 63% possession overall, 17 shots, only 5 on target. Bournemouth had 12 shots and 7 on target. The XG was pretty even. It's 2.26 for Newcastle, 2.59 for Bournemouth. So they did have slightly the better chances overall, but really Newcastle should be winning a game like that. But yeah, it's disappointing. I can't get away from that word. I'm quite bored with that. Andrew with a comment, talk about how it's difficult second album season. Yeah, can't disagree. look, I think there's potentially a huge amount of overachievement maybe last season, and this led to maybe this, but not far off in terms of the European push. Things haven't been great over recent weeks, even though there's that unbeaten. That's it, unbeaten in 5 now. But it's the performances that aren't particularly great. William in the chat as well. Good evening. Poor result, entertaining match. We continue to play at the level of our opponents. Let's hope it continues next week. Yeah, I can't disagree with that one at all, because you're absolutely right. You look at the games against Luton Forest and Bournemouth. You've kind of scrapped it at there instead of going out and taking the game by the scruff of the neck and going, no, this is our game, we're going to win it. It's playing down to allowing them to bring you down to their level and having that. So hopefully you're right. Yeah, next week against Arsenal, it's a case of play up to their level and really be able to match them. Let's have a look. Big Al 60, need a striker ASAP. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, obviously with Wilson being out now until 9 to 12 weeks, it's a really big blow. I've got a question knowledge, and I've seen it in a few things that Wilson should have been off the field when he gets injured last week. He really should have been. He should have been taken off at that point. There's no need to have kept him on. And that allows it, you don't know that that's going to happen, but realistically, that late in the game, does he really need to be on the field when he has struggled with his fitness? It was another one of those odd decisions. Let's have a look. Luke, Miley or Gordon for man of the match? Yeah, I would agree with that one as well. William, you'd already have to say Miggy was ineffective. Just say he was Miggy. Him being ineffective, yeah, pretty much. We've seen the good side of Miggy from last season. We've seen normal Miggy, and this is definitely normal Miggy. Sean Botman was poor. I agree. I thought he had a poor game today. Looking at his sort of stats, I mean, Sofa score, if you want to go by it, have him at a 7.1. I'm not entirely sure that's really giving him credit where credit's probably not due. I don't think he did have a particularly good game today. He wasn't dreadful, absolutely not. I'm not going to say that, but I don't think he was at his best. Certainly. Hyperbole. I love Miggy Longstaff and Murphy. They aren't good enough until we improve personnel. It's never going to work. Look, yeah. How many times do we all say this? That there is a fundamental lacking of quality across the squad. They're a good side. They're a good team, but quality-wise, when you have games like this to be able to take that game and go and make it yours, I just don't think those players are good enough. There was a key thing from the first half as well. Sean Longstaff's legs, just getting forward. The ball, I think it was Bruno that played it forward for him. And as Longstaff runs through, he just doesn't have the legs to carry on the run. He's made a good 20, 30-yard run, and he just doesn't have the pace and the longevity in that to be able to get on the end of it. And he's brushed off by the defender in the end. That's a killer, really, in that regard. And again, just the massive miss of Joe Linton in the middle of the park is clear as well for everybody to see. Terra sees, I begin to fear that players are not getting motivated to play well, Freddie. Look, I'm not sure. Well, we'll never get a confirmation of that. But sometimes you do think that, don't you? That the players just don't look to be in the same kind of spirit at times. Certainly late in the game today, that they seem fired up to get back into it. But it's taking until Newcastle are behind or right at the end of the game to be able to get that sort of fired up passion back into the game. And it's an odd one that seeing them come out, and I think if Newcastle come out and take the lead today, they can really grab that game, put it to bed. But it's just, it does seem an odd thing that they're just starting games particularly slowly and not that there isn't that fire with them. I don't think so. Maybe that is true. Let's have a look to go. Ringo, teams look like they're going to score against us every time they go forward. Yeah, I mean, like, we talked about the goals being conceded are ridiculous at the moment, and there are those mistakes. Those mistakes just happen in time and time again with the defenders or the goalkeeper, and they have to get cut out. There's got to be a run where these things don't happen, but it keeps happening. Somebody keeps slipping up, literally today, and that can't continue to happen. Trolls in the chat, good evening. How about now? He doesn't make changes till we concede. In the two spaces, should serve not good enough. Even at the start of the season, I mean, I've questioned Eddie Howe's tactics when it comes to substitutions as well. That I mean, go back the key games for me. The Everton one when Newcastle are 3-0 down, and he doesn't make a substitution until the 90th minute when the game's completely dead and buried. Those substitutions should have happened earlier to rest players. Paris, when it's 0-0, no substitutions made in the entire 1-0. No substitution made in the entire game. Even when 2 or 3 players are completely dead on their feet. The Man City game, again, no substitutions made at that point, and players are absolutely out on their feet again. And this continues to happen, and there seems to be no real proactive changes to his substitutions. It's always reactive. He needs to learn to be able to change things. And I know that's difficult when you don't quite have the quality from the bench, but come up with something different. Come up with a different way of doing things, or change of formation, like we saw against Forest a little bit, where you went to a more 3-2 in sort of the defence and defensive midfield. Things like that you can change around, even with the personnel that are there and 1 or 2 substitutions. But there's really the way that he's managing is far too reactive. It really is. Tyson, if players don't perform, why not give others an opportunity? Purple patches, cloud, yeah, completely. And I think that goes over into one season to another, and I think we see that particularly with Miggy. Yeah, he works hard, but he's had a purple patch from last season, and that carries over into thinking, well, he can get the same result this season out of him, and we've seen all season for Miggy, we're not going to get that. And it is, I think it is just purely blind loyalty. Yeah, Billy, there you go. The manager's showing blind and misguided loyalty. It is costing us massively. Completely agree. Perfect timing there, Billy. So thank you for that one. Yeah, it's. I do think he's got this blind loyalty to players. I think Ben is getting the brunt of that at the moment. I do think Tino is probably the better fit for left back for now, especially against teams with pace. And we've seen in 3 games running, Luton, Forest, and today, where the right winger has bags and bags of pace, Dan Burn gets caught out, and it's not all his fault. Absolutely not. We talked about this on Monday, where I think the defence overall, I think Botman was out of position at times against Forest. I thought he could have helped Burn an awful lot more last week, and Shaw in that regard as well. I thought today, obviously, Burn being more cautious against Semenyo, but he needs support from those around him, and he's not got it. The midfield isn't particularly helping him out, and I think a big chunk of that is the fact that Joe Linton isn't in that left-hand sided midfield role to be able to help him out. So, but yeah, I think he is showing loyalty to players that maybe don't deserve to get so much of it. Sophia, good evening. It was awful. No organisation, no direction. I think until the last 10 minutes, I just don't see there was any real plan today. Like I said earlier on, when Gordon making those runs, they looked good. I thought him and Barnes, particularly first half, were making sort of decent runs into space. But that was it. There was no real plan of who was coming next and who was going to move into those positions, so that when one moved, another one dropped into the space that they'd left. And a little bit different second half with Gordon pulling left and Barnes through the middle. Barnes isn't a centre forward either, and that's clear. So difficult for him in that regard. But again, just there didn't seem to be a plan it's particularly up front. And I think that it's almost a little bit of a get out of jail with a penalty, and then that sort of last minute goal is really a get out of jail card for him today, because I think that was, I sort of said at the beginning, questioned whether this was a good result for Newcastle. And the more I'm talking it through, it's just not a good result at all. Even though you've come back from two, from being behind twice, it's just not a good result. Ty in the chat, good evening. We're going backwards. Our league position flatters us. I think almost like last season, even though Newcastle is slightly further down the league, there's almost an element of those around just not being at their best. It kind of happened with the side last year, where obviously Liverpool and Chelsea and everybody were off the pace, and Newcastle took advantage of that. They did really, really well. We're not going to not give them the credit where it's due. I thought they were brilliant last season and deserved to be where they were. But again, this season they're probably riding higher because of others just around them not being as good. West Ham lost again today. Chelsea still right in the middle of the league. Manchester United just ahead, but haven't been particularly good. So there's still an opportunity for the side to get themselves into Europe, and clearly into Europe, and be able to make this a better end to the season. Definitely. Kevin in the chat, good evening, mate. The mistake is starting to look like Eddie Howe. His starting lineup with Dan, Big Dan at left back is shocking. You can go with either argument, and we've had this multiple times over the last few weeks, haven't we? Where I think he's got this loyalty to him, and he wants to. And I don't think Burn was particularly bad last week, but at some point you have to manage against the opposition that are ahead of you. It can't all be, well, we'll just play our game and everything will work well. It really doesn't work like that. And Newcastle Eddie Howe has to look at it and go, well, look, we've got a problem on the left. We've got a problem, the fact that Dan Burn doesn't have pace to face up against these players. We need to change things. We need to put somebody in there that can combat that and alleviate that problem. And he's just not doing it. And it's really poor, I think. I do think it's poor management. And Jeff in the comment there, exactly. Eddie Howe, good training coach, bad game management, or shit game management. Yeah, I can't really disagree with that at all. Like I say, I just think that ability to manage the game in front of you isn't quite there. And I just think the ability to then change things and make things go the way you want them to, and that's not always going to be possible, but at least be proactive. At least try and change things to benefit your side. Don't just react to what's going on around you. And I think that's exactly what he's doing. Mike Hawke and Genitals, why does Eddie Howe treat Bournemouth like Man City? He seems to put him on a pedestal. Yeah, what is it? 9 games now without a win against Bournemouth for Eddie Howe. And seems like exactly what he's saying. It's just, there's this affinity to them, isn't it? But I mean, I'm not saying he's going to go out and purposely not win a game against them, but honestly, that run is ridiculous. It's a hell of a start. But he does it. I think there's is there a lack of wanting to, and not just against Bournemouth, it's just a lack of wanting to change things and be caught out by it? Is there a fear of making those difficult decisions to maybe play a Lewis Hall at left back or a Tino at left back and see what happens? And he's too caught in what's gone on before. He's too caught in the past with how things went last season. What happened last season isn't happening this season, and he just seems a little bit too afraid to want to make those changes. I'm going to go through a few more comments, and I'm going to dive off for the evening, guys. So let's have a look at some of the other comments in here. Michael, I can't see Europe being a realistic chance if you're not beating Bournemouth at home. Look, it's possibly. I think. Look, there's plenty of games left in the season. The fear I think this week will be the fact that you're running into a game against Arsenal next week, and they are on fire. They won 5-0 today. They are on fire at the moment, and the pace and the movement they have will cause Newcastle's defence problems. That's the one where you run into more difficulties. And like I say, they should be getting results against the likes of Bournemouth, Luton, and Nottingham Forest. And no disrespect intended to those sides, but I'm sorry, but a side that's got European ambitions should be winning those games. So it's going to be difficult, I think. But like I said before, there are other teams that have fallen over themselves. West Ham got themselves into a good position and have fallen apart. And it could be David Moyes on his way out the door because they've lost 2-0 again today. And Calvin Phillips got himself sent off. So he's having a wonderful time in his career now at West Ham. Maybe Newcastle got away with not going down that route. I'll let you decide on that one. Andy in the chat there. Good evening. You win or lose a match in midfield. As clueless. It's an odd thing in the midfield because at times they look great. Bruno looks brilliant at times. Miley I thought was great today. And again, it's one of those where I would have put Miley as man of the match because I thought he was excellent, particularly for the first part of the game. I think on the votes in the community chat, Bruno's gone ahead of him in terms of the man of the match vote. So he's now at 54%. And I can't disagree with that one. But the problem I think Newcastle have with the midfield is they just get caught too far forward. They get caught with the ball in behind them too many times, and it allows teams to break on the defence, and the defence are just on their own. And I think that stems from not having a proper defensive midfielder. We've talked about that until we're blue in the face. That number 6 is a huge miss. Miley's done well the last couple of games when he sat in that hole and allowed Bruno to play further forward. But even Lewis Miley wants to play further forward. He likes to get involved further up the field. And then with Longstaff not sitting either, you end up with 3 central midfielders around the halfway line or higher and a huge gap in behind them. And they're not disciplined enough to be able to do that. And teams have found that out, and that's the route that they're taking. It's coming here from Northumberland Rock. But anyone that's thinking that Gordon is overrated, he's been okay, but my God, he can't beat anybody, and he's rapid. I don't think he's overrated. I think he's excellent. I do think Chris said this at the start of the season, and we saw this from pre-season games as well. He needs a trick. Pace is one thing, but at the moment Gordon gets in and he has that little jink and he cuts inside and then he'll release a shot. I do think he misses a trick, a step over or something to just draw a defender in and be able to burst past him, because he's got that initial burst of speed to be able to get away from pretty much anybody in the league. He just needs that little trick to be able to just get him away. And I think that is something that he does miss and could potentially be something that you can work on with him. He's still young enough to be able to develop something like that, but he definitely needs something like that. Andy, I forgot Longstaff was playing. Yeah, apart from that run in the first half, I don't think Sean Longstaff did an awful lot. He played a great ball through to Miggy first couple of minutes of the second half, but other than that, he's really a non-event today at all. It's another one that's probably he's keeping his place because there's nobody else to play there. If Willock's fit and Joe Linton's fit and Tonali's there, Tonali a big miss at the moment. Not to invoke the banned one's name, but I think he is a big miss in that midfield because I think he would do that holding role quite well. But Sean just, he's had moments over the last few weeks. He scored a couple of goals and it's given him, I think, made it look slightly better than probably his performances have been. But he has been overall relatively poor. I mean, that might sound harsh to some of you. It might or might not. But I do think he lacks some quality in that. Roger, good evening, mate. Glad you could join us. What a different game. Pissed where they own more of the game than us. Questionable time subs. Yeah, can't disagree with the subs thing. I mean, in terms of the overall game, I think they had more of the important moments of the game. That's for sure. Newcastle dominated possession. They dominated all the areas of the game, but not in important moments. And I think Bournemouth had far more of those. So yeah, definitely they dominated in that regard. Ross, Cowout, same mistakes every week to Southgate in disguise. I think that's harsh. 400 million and we're looking at mid-table at best. Yes, injuries bad, but every club has them in some ways. So Newcastle have had an absolutely woeful time with injuries. Now, I will back them up in this regard. I don't think there's many teams that have had such a rotten run of injuries across key players in the squad, and I think they've brought some of it on themselves. The lack of a third striker is a massive one. The lack of another midfielder is another one. But you can't look at it and go, well, missing Joe Linton, Willock, Anderson and Tonali all out of that midfield. I know Tonali's banned, but you're missing 4 players for that midfield. And it goes back, I put a post on our community thing earlier on about the Mail Sport talking about Liverpool's injury crisis, and they were on about Szoboszlai, Alisson, and somebody else. I can't even remember who the other one was being out injured. It's 3 players. Oh, Trent was out as well. I'm sorry, that's not an injury crisis. That's normal. But when you've got 5, 6, 7, at one point it was something like 12 or 13 players that were out missing. That's a crisis across a season, not 2 or 3. But look, things have to improve. Eddie Howe's got to learn. We keep saying that. Sooner or later, he's gonna find out the hard way that he either learns or he adapts, or he's going to be out of a job. And he's done such a good thing for the first 18 months or so, and things just aren't looking right at the moment, and that needs to change pretty quickly. Roger, again, a big patch of it. Yeah, absolutely. Confidence is a huge thing, and I think Newcastle do look devoid of confidence, particularly in sort of forward areas, and in that regard, and they're not being able to see off teams the way that they were. And defensively, those mistakes are killing them, and more mistakes that are made, that just affects more and more confidence. And I think a big thing at the back, as well as Dubravka has played, I think a big thing at the back is the fact that Nick Pope was missing. He makes such a difference to that back line. He really does. He gives the players in front of him confidence to be able to go out and play. So it's that's a big thing confidence wise. So I'm going to have a couple more comments in this, and then I'm going to go for the evening. Let's have a look. Abacus there. I repeat, 2 positions we make changes to. The manager is too stubborn to do so, costing us. Eddie looks like he's signed. So look, I know there have been calls. There are people that are in that camp of thinking he's not the right manager for the job now. But does he still have enough credit in the bank, guys? Does he still have enough to warrant being given more and more time? That's your call. I'm still in there very much in the this can change, this can get better. I think he's had to deal with an awful lot injury-wise. I think there are problems behind the scenes. Obviously, we'll not talk about Dan Ashworth tonight, but I think that's a huge one in terms of the disconnect between him and the sporting director and the transfers that have gone on. I think there's a huge problem there that probably gets better if Dan Ashworth goes, and I guess that's a big hope. So I'm in the Eddie in camp in that regard, and see how he can maybe change things before the end of the season. If 1 or 2 come back, I think Willock and Anderson aren't far away. Target's not far away as well. So there are players coming back to the fold. So things may improve. I'm not sure on Isak as well. I think they said Isak wasn't ready for today, but should hopefully be back soon as well. So it's there are players to return. So things may start to improve over coming weeks. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for that. Let's have a look. So Chris N, I guarantee he plays Burns and Meek against Arsenal. I think you might be right there as well. I think he doesn't change an awful lot from today unless Isak is fit enough to start. Paul, some of these comments ones, we currently lack identity of square pegs and round holes. Don't blame players playing the game. Yeah. Finish on the officials today. I think he was dreadful. If I'm honest, I'll go back to that first half. I think Newcastle should have had, Bournemouth should have had 5 players on yellow cards. They were clearly yellow cards. The one on Barnes. Barnes turns his player and is away, and he gets pulled back, and it's clearly a yellow card. I think it was Adam Smith that pulled him back. He turns him and he's away. It's a promising attack. It has to be a yellow card. Like I say, the one from Senesi is clearly a yellow card. And then when he gets booked, that should be a second yellow, and that changes things. And it all comes back to that consistency word, doesn't it, for referees? So absolutely awful. Kind of matches, I think, a lot of people's feelings for the game today. So yeah, we're going to leave it there, guys. So thank you very much for joining me in the chat tonight. As we said at the beginning, look, if you are new to the channel, you do like what today's video or the other stuff that we do, particularly Chris's rants. I know they go down really, really well. Please drop us a like on the video and consider subscribing as well. If you want to donate to the channel as well, everything is really appreciated. You can become a member, hitting the button at the bottom, or donate to the channel and help us provide more and more of this content as we go on. So yeah, thank you very much for everybody joining me tonight. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys, and we will see you on Monday night for what's going on at 9:30. All right, guys, thank you very much. See you guys. Bye.